First, I'd just like to thank Coach Fuente, Coach Hamilton, for giving me this opportunity. Obviously, it's a dream come true for me. Getting to be back in my alma mater, coaching a position that I love at a place that I love, and it meant the world to me. So I'm so appreciative of them, Coach Clays, Coach Foster, for how they've molded me and gotten me to the place that I am now.
All right. Norm, do you want to lead off?
Hey, Jack.
How's it going?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You've made no over the years. You've made no sort of mystery about what an influence Bud Foster has been on your career. I know you don't want to be a carbon copy of anybody. You want to take bits and pieces from a lot of different folks, but do you consider yourself a little bit of a reflection of the way he coached, just in intensity and style and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. And if there was a person that you said I could be a carbon copy of, it would be Coach Foster. That's as high a compliment as I could receive. Most of what I was with Coach Foster for 5 years as a player and then 5 years as a coach. So 10 years with him, a whole decade with him. Obviously, I learned so much from him, and kind of that is what I know, for linebacker play and defensive play. And obviously getting to be around some different guys last year kind of changed some of the ways that I thought. But for 10 years, it was Coach Foster's way and his style. So definitely, I've definitely learned and kind of molded my style around what he kind of brought to the forefront. And it was funny because when he kind of had that when he was off the field there for those couple games at the end of 2018, I had a bunch of people tell me that they couldn't tell between me and him on the sideline because we had kind of the same gestures and the same look. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because anytime that I can be compared to Coach Foster, obviously one of the greatest of all time, it means the world. And he's such a legend in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. And just being in the same sentence as him is a dream come true.
Yeah. Do you? I don't know if there was. It seems like it's a pretty rare opportunity to be able to get your first full-time coaching opportunity on the 9-man assistant coaching staff, 9 or 10-man coaching staff at your alma mater. Was there a point where you thought, I'm going to have to go somewhere else to make this start? I mean, that's not an uncommon thought. I just didn't know if you thought at some point that's the step you're going to have to take.
Absolutely. It was always something that was kind of on the back of my mind, but I also knew, being in this building that, Coach Fuente is as good of a coach as I've ever been around, and he does it the right way. And, obviously I'd been around Coach Beamer before him, Coach Withers at JMU, and I loved the way that he went about his work every day, and where I thought Virginia Tech was going was something that I wanted to be a part of. And still, still to this day, that hasn't changed at all. Coach Fuente is a premier as a coach as anybody. And, this program is on the right tracks right now, and it's going to places that it's never been before. And I'm excited about that, and I've always wanted to stay a part of it and be a part of it. And that's what kind of deterred me from making those moves, even though I thought maybe I would need to. But I just knew that if I stayed here and I could learn from Coach Foster and then Coach Hamilton last year, Coach Clays, and Coach Fuente, that it'd be better for my longevity and it'd be better for my career path, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Andy?
Hey, Jack, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How about you?
I'm pretty good. I'm curious, what is running through your mind before the Duke game when Fuente comes up to you and says, you're calling plays in this game?
Yeah. Well, actually, so I knew I was going to do that the Wednesday of that week. And, back in the summertime, we actually went through kind of a phase of Coach Fuente kind of laid the groundwork out on if we have guys go down, this is kind of the hierarchy of who's calling the plays next. This is where we're going. We had backup plans for everything, and I knew where I landed on that hierarchy, and I knew that if a couple guys went down, that I was the next man up. So I'd already kind of prepared for that opportunity, and that if that was to ever happen. And sure enough, of course, it maybe happened before, or really that it even happened in general. I think no one would have thought. But I did know, Smitty went down, I think, that Wednesday. And so I knew that Wednesday practice, Thursday, and then Friday that I was going to do it. And, I grinded like no other for those 3 days because, at the end of the day, I didn't want to let anybody down. And, there were a fun 3 days, a hard 3 days because of what went into those couple days of preparing. But, I kind of got my glimpse of what Coach Foster and Coach Ham have to go through on a weekly basis, which is it's fun, but it's also, it's a grind. But it was a blast, and it was kind of a dream come true because obviously that's something that I've always envisioned myself getting to at some point. I want to work my way there, and to kind of have a little bit of taste there was unbelievable.
When you're put in that situation, do you have to resist the urge to just like go out there and be like blitz crazy, like, oh, I got to show them that I can do this job? Is it tough to restrain yourself and just sort of call a basic game plan at all?
Yes, honestly. So everyone kind of, as a player, everyone kind of laughed at me because I was kind of more of a quiet, like kind of just stuck to, I didn't get too high, too low. And I think that has carried over to my coaching, like I can get a little bit more Coach Foster-like at times, but I think I'm more, kind of subtle. And, I think that helped me that day because, things do get crazy, and they, there's times where you want to get upset, and there's times when you're really happy. And the best piece of advice I got that week was from Coach Hamilton, and he said, like just stay you, just kind of stay status quo. And, when things happen really well, like don't get too high. And when things are going terribly, don't get too low. If you stay right there, the players will stay right there. And I kind of kept that in the back of my head the whole time. And as much as I wanted to just blitz the house every time, I also knew Coach Foster, even though he may be proud of me for that, it probably wouldn't look good on the scoreboard at the end of the day. So I tried to stay away from that as best I could.
How did you rate your performance? I mean, do you look back and go, man, I wish I had made that call, or like, how do you think you did?
Yeah, I think for the first time, I thought I was pretty excited with the performance. But obviously, like there are things that I go back and would have liked to have changed, calls that I would have liked to have done differently. And I think that's every game though for every coordinator. You can't roll sevens the whole game. You're not going to call a perfect play every single time. They have good coaches. Coach Cutcliffe, I think, was calling their offense, and clearly he's one of the best at that. So he knew how to kind of counteract some of the things that I was trying to do. But for the most part, we got to win. So that's all I really cared about. I could have cared less how the defense did as long as we got the win.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Mike Nisley.
Yeah, Jack, I was curious. J.C. Price obviously is catching up on the roster. With you been here for a while, you don't need to do. Everybody. I was curious with Alan Tisdale. He kind of had an up and down year, I guess. Obviously, he had a kid, so it's kind of a lot on his plate. What are your expectations for him? And do you think he needs to add weight to be successful at that outside linebacker spot? Where do you see him right now?
Well, first of all, the sky's the limit for Alan. What a wonderful human being. He has so much talent. He's, unbelievably athletic. He just has so many different qualities about him that make him a good linebacker. And I think, his battle with weight has been an issue, and he's put on good weight already this spring. And I'm very happy with where he's at right now. He's really done a good job this off season, doing some of those things that maybe in the past hurt him a little bit. And I think he's really turned over a new leaf. And being a dad now, I think kind of helps him with that. Maybe he matured a little bit. And not saying he wasn't mature before, but he's almost like a different person now. He comes in and he wants to talk football as 24/7, and he's such an unbelievable person for us, and I need him for my room just because he brings all those tangibles, but also he's starting to bring along some of the intangibles, and I'm so excited for him in the spring and this fall and to see what he blossoms into.
And then Dax, obviously getting to move over to Mike. Why is he more naturally suited, do you think, to that spot? And how do you think, not having to rotate or split time in practice, how much is that going to help him to kind of make that spot his own?
Well, I think just naturally for the position-wise, it's more of inside the box, especially with how we kind of cater our defense with a 4-2-5. The Mike is more of and it's not the old, the old days of like everybody thinks the Mike is just like a plugger and, going to just take on fullbacks. And that really doesn't happen in football anymore. Like it's a more wide open game, even for the Mike. But I think what Dax, kind of, he's a leader of the defense. He's the quarterback of the defense, and I think that's what the kind of the Mike role is to kind of get you're right in the middle. So you're getting everybody lined up, making sure they're doing the responsibilities to the field, to the boundary, and he's amazing at that. He's another coach on the field. He's just an extension of me out there. I know if I tell him to do something, if I want someone else to do something differently, all you have to do is tell Dax because he's going to get it done. He's going to make sure that in that exact situation, that exact scenario, it's going to get done. And that's so valuable in today's football because, we don't have like the NFL. They have the mics and the helmets and you can communicate that way. We don't have that. It's all through signals or wristbands or whatever it is. And so being able to tell Dax on a Tuesday, this is exactly what I want in this situation. And if it occurs on Saturday, I want you to do it this way. And he can get it done. I mean, that's as valuable as a resource as you could possibly get. So I think that's, obviously athleticism and some of that, obviously, a guy in more space, you want to be a little bit more fleet-footed, a little bit faster. And not that Dax isn't athletic because he is. He's playing big-time college football, but he just athletically and physically, he's more suited for the Mike position in that way, but also on top of that, his football IQ and his leadership is mainly what is the reason why he's better suited for Mike.
And then behind those two guys, you only have a couple dozen reps of experience, I think, with Dean and Keyshawn. Is establishing depth, is it kind of wide open, and is that kind of the most important thing here that you're going to have to try to find in the spring?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I've tried to let those guys know that, maybe you pencil in Dax and Allen at the top, but the whole job is wide open, like this is not these guys have the job and you guys are the backups and let's figure out who's a better backup than who else. It's as wide open as ever. It's I'm going to play whoever's giving me the best opportunity to win on Saturdays. And that could be from Isi Atute or Will Johnson coming in, or it could be Dax and Allen, and that's, the practice and the build up to that is what ultimately I'm going to have to use to decide that stuff. But it's not about who's the backup and who's a better backup and who's going to help us get depth. They're all going to help us get depth. And I'm trying to get them to the point where the lowest guy in the depth chart is as good as the highest guy in the depth chart. And that's, that's ultimately my job. And that's what I'm going to try to get done this spring and going into the fall, is just to make sure that they're all kind of on similar levels. So, you always know that one guy, you're always a play away. The backup's a play away. Well, that guy's backup's a play away from moving up even further. So, you're 2 plays away from that guy being the starter. So they all got to be relatively similar in the same, in the terms of, their readiness to play. And, I got to get them to that level.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Mike Barber.
Hey, Jack, have you missed talking to us?
Absolutely. I was going to say, dude, some of you guys, obviously you guys are far away, but it looks like some of you guys have used Touch of Grey since the last time I saw you.
I have kids now, so that's the difference.
No doubt.
I know you kind of hit on this when you were talking about Dax, but I'm curious, is there a player on the team, in the room, that reminds you of you, and is maybe that the guy?
Yeah, honestly, I think Dax and I have a lot of the same qualities, and I've told him that before, I wasn't the most athletically gifted player ever, when I played, and I knew that my football IQ and anticipation, those are the things that would help me be successful. And Dax knows that too. He knows that he's not going to go run a 4.40. He'll be the first one to admit that. And that's also something I love about him, is he's very open about that. He understands his liabilities, and he doesn't have very many of them, but he understands them. And that was kind of similar to me, was I understood my liabilities too. I knew that I wasn't going to go run a 4.40 either. That, I had to use my strengths to my advantage, and my anticipation, my film study. And Dax does all those things, and, I think that's where we compare so well to each other.
To be on a staff with Coach Hamilton, now with Coach Price, Pearson, Brian Schumann. My point is, a lot of former players.
Yeah.
As a former player, is that nice to see that connection to the past?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the big thing about that is, even though I didn't know some of these guys maybe beforehand, I played with Jaron, I played with Corey Fuller, but I had never played with Coach Hamilton, Coach Prelu, Coach Price, clearly Coach Tapp. I'd never played with those guys, but just innately you know that you can trust them, that they're your brother, that they're going to look out for you, that they're going to have your best interest at heart. You just know those things because of where you've been and where you've come through, and just the brotherhood of being a Virginia Tech football player. So without ever meeting them beforehand, I knew that coming in, and it just adds a sense of comfortableness and camaraderie and togetherness that maybe you wouldn't get if you didn't have it that way.
Last one for me. Coach Hamilton had a pretty precipitous rise through the coaching ranks. Is that inspiring for you as a young coach to see kind of how quickly it came together for him?
Absolutely. And I think that's my goal is to one day be a head coach and be a defensive coordinator. And I think a lot of young coaches have those same goals. And seeing Coach Ham, and to be honest, he didn't just do that, because he got lucky. He worked for it, and he did an unbelievable job at every step that he went to, achieving his goals and exceeding those goals, and telling everybody around him and his relationships. And I've never heard one bad thing about the guy, and it makes sense that he was able to climb those ranks so fast because of those things. And I guess it gives you hope as a young coach that maybe one day will be your day. And maybe that goes back to the question earlier about why I stayed and didn't go somewhere else, is because I saw him achieve those goals, and I knew that Coach Fuente is a loyal guy. And if you work hard for him and do the right things, that he's going to reward you eventually for him. And I saw that, with Coach Ham, and knew that I could, if I did the same things that Coach Hamilton did, that I could achieve those same goals.
Awesome. Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
David Teal.
Jack, how will your experience as a walk-on, earning a scholarship, and just your career arc, how will that affect how you recruit?
Well, I think, for me, I think being a walk-on, being a little bit maybe overlooked, I think has helped me up to this point with walk-on recruiting. I think, I can sell my story on being that guy in their shoes. And I think going forward now, I don't know if the walk-on perspective maybe helps all that much with the regular guys, because it's not the same path that they're going. But what it does do is it shows them that I've worked for everything, that I'm a goal-oriented person, and that, when I'm faced with adversity, that I'm going to fight through it and ultimately achieve my goals. And I think selling that to recruits, that they're coming to play for someone that does those things, that has achieved success through adversity, I think, opens their eyes to just how hardworking and, how motivated I am to be successful.
Once coaches are allowed back out on the road, will that be one of the biggest adjustments for you?
I think so. Obviously, when Coach Foster had his hip surgery a couple years back, I was on the road there for the first time ever, so I got a little bit of experience there, and it was awesome because Coach Hamilton at that same time, Coach Wiggins had moved on, so he kind of stepped into the role as well at the same exact time. So we kind of got to go together because he had recruited Northern Virginia for a long time and the D.C. and Maryland area. So I got to kind of shadow with him, and he kind of got to teach me the ropes of how to go about the day of work on the road and how to do some of those things. So I got to learn from one of the best, just straight out of the box. So that was important for me, is kind of getting that experience and seeing how to do some of those things and getting to do home visits and whatnot. I think was valuable for my progression in this industry. And, obviously it's going to be a little bit different because now I have my own areas and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I'm ready to get started. I already have kind of reached out to all the coaches in my area and tried my best to kind of do it without obviously going to see them in person. But there's nobody more excited to get recruits on campus than me because of how much I bleed maroon and orange, and you guys know that.
When and how did you catch the coaching bug?
Oh man, I've told this story a couple times where there was actually one moment that I knew I wanted to be a coach, and up until that time, my dad was, my dad's always been my hero, and he was my coach for a lot of things growing up. And when he wasn't my coach, I had unbelievable coaches. So I knew through my youth and through high school that maybe that was something I wanted to do. But what really stamped it was in 2010 in the ACC championship game. Actually, it was the week of practice leading up to the game. I was behind Bruce Taylor on the depth chart, and I remember they ran this play with what's his name, E.J. Emanuel. They ran a speed option play, and I remember screwing it up a bunch in practice, and then Coach Foster kind of laying into me in practice, and I was like, well, shoot, I think he should lay into Bruce. He's the one who's going to have to do it on game day. But he understood the whole, next man up. And, of course, Bruce goes down in that game. I'm put in that same exact situation. I had remembered from the week of practice exactly what to do to cheat out a little bit to get over top of the tight end on the speed option play. And sure enough, cheated out, made a tackle for loss on like a 3rd and 1 play. And it was right at that moment that was like, if you could give so much, coaching is the joy that I was receiving on that play was 100% Coach Foster. And everybody that's watching the game is like, oh, wow, like, look at this, walk on, that's making a great play. And they didn't know anything about Coach Foster laying into me that whole week of practice to get it right, 3-4 times to finally do it right. And then on game day, I succeeded. And it kind of dawned on me that, I could reciprocate those things to others and, allow my expertise to, kind of give it to them. And it was pretty much at that moment that I was stamped that I wanted to be a coach when I grew up.
How many times afterward did he remind you that he was right and he had schooled you right?
Oh, I mean, Coach Foster, he's not one to, really take the, he'll let you know, maybe in meetings, but he'll give you all the credit, outside of that. And, I love that guy. He's like a second dad to me. So, I still see him, maybe once a week. He comes down and says hi. And what an unbelievable person, what an unbelievable human being and coach. And I love that guy. I love him to death.